Let's perform a quick audit of your yesterday. If you were to look at the 8 or 9 hours you spent working, how much of that time was actually spent creating something of high value? I'm not talking about clearing your inbox. I'm not talking about replying to Slack messages within 30 seconds or sitting in a Zoom meeting with your camera off while you browse LinkedIn. I'm talking about the kind of work that demands your absolute, undivided cognitive attention, the kind of work that pushes your brain to its limit and results in something rare. In the 1920s, the famous psychiatrist Carl Jung built a stone tower in the woods of Bollingen, Switzerland. When he was there, he locked the door. He had no electricity, no telephone, and no distractions. He did this because he realized that to change the world of psychology, he needed to think thoughts that no one else was thinking, and to do that, he needed silence. He was engaging in what author and computer science professor Cal Newport calls deep work. But here is the problem. We're living in a world that is actively conspiring to destroy your ability to do exactly that. We are drowning in the shallows. In his groundbreaking book, Deep Work, Cal Newport argues that we have misunderstood productivity. We have confused busyness with value. We wear our exhaustion like a badge of honor, thinking that if we answer 100 emails a day, we are being productive. Newport calls this shallow work. Let's define the terms, because the distinction changes everything. Shallow work consists of non-cognitively demanding logistical-style tasks, often performed while distracted. These efforts tend not to create much new value in the world and are easy to replicate. Deep work, on the other hand, is professional activity performed in a state of distraction-free concentration that pushes your cognitive capabilities to their limit. These efforts create new value, improve your skill, and are hard to replicate. The thesis of this book is terrifyingly simple. The ability to perform deep work is becoming increasingly rare at exactly the same time it is becoming increasingly valuable. Newport suggests that the few individuals who can cultivate this skill and then make it the core of their working life will thrive. Those who don't, they will be replaced by AI, automation, or someone in a different time zone who can focus. So why is deep work the killer app of the current economy? Newport breaks this down into two core abilities that you need to survive in the digital age. Core ability number 1, the ability to master hard things quickly. Technology changes fast. If you were a programmer, the framework you used 5 years ago is likely obsolete. If you're a marketer, the algorithms have changed 6 times since this morning. To learn complex systems, you cannot dabble, you have to immerse yourself. Neurologically, learning requires a process called myelination. When you focus intensely on a specific skill, you are firing specific circuits. This triggers the wrapping of myelin around those neurons, which cements the skill. If you're distracted, checking your phone every 10 minutes, you are firing the wrong circuits. You aren't just learning slowly, you are effectively teaching your brain to be distracted. Core ability number 2, the ability to produce at an elite level in terms of both quality and speed. There's a formula Newport uses here. High-quality work produced equals time spent times intensity of focus. If your intensity of focus is low because you have attention residue from glancing at an email, you have to spend significantly more time to get the same result. But if you can crank your intensity to a 10 out of 10, you can produce work in 4 hours that takes the average distracted worker a week. This is the superpower argument. In a distraction economy, deep work is not just a productivity hack, it is a competitive advantage. It is the difference between being a human router, simply moving information from one inbox to another, and being a creator who moves the needle. But knowing why you need to go deep is the easy part. The hard part is actually doing it when your phone is vibrating in your pocket. To solve this, Newport doesn't just give us philosophy, he gives us 4 distinct rules. The first rule is straightforward but difficult. Work deeply. Newport argues that good intentions are not enough. You cannot simply say, "I'm going to focus more." Willpower is a finite resource. It's like a battery. If you rely on willpower alone to fight off the urge to check Instagram every 5 minutes, you will deplete that battery by lunch. Instead, you need a philosophy, a structured approach to scheduling deep work. Newport outlines 4 specific depth philosophies. You need to pick the one that fits your lifestyle. First is the monastic philosophy. This is the most extreme. You eliminate all shallow obligations, no email, no social media, zero accessibility. This is for the science fiction writer Neil Stephenson, who famously doesn't have an email address because, as he puts it, he can either be a good novelist or a good emailer, but not both. If you can't disappear from the world entirely, there is the bimodal philosophy. This is what Carl Jung did. You divide your time. You dedicate clearly defined stretches, days or weeks, to deep work, leaving the rest of your time open for shallow work. Maybe you take a cabotage, completely disconnecting for 4 days a month to write the report, and then you are available for meetings the rest of the time. Third and most realistic for the average office worker is the rhythmic philosophy. This relies on the power of habit. You create a rhythm. For example, every single morning from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. is deep work time, no exceptions. By making it a daily habit, you remove the decision-making process. You don't decide to work, you just do it because it's 6 a.m. This is the chain method famously used by Jerry Seinfeld. Finally, there is the journalist philosophy. This is for the advanced practitioner who can switch into deep mode at a moment's notice. It's named after journalists like Walter Isaacson, who could write a masterpiece in a spare 20 minutes while waiting for a plane. This requires high mental agility and isn't recommended for beginners. Whichever philosophy you choose, you must support it with rituals. Your brain needs cues. Decide where you will work and for how long. Create rules for the session, like no internet allowed or 2,000 words or bust. These rituals reduce the friction of starting. But even with the perfect schedule, you will fail if your brain is broken. This leads us to the second and perhaps most uncomfortable rule. Rule number 2. Embrace boredom. Newport makes a striking claim. The ability to concentrate intensely is a skill that must be trained. But the flip side is also true. Distraction is a habit that you have practiced thousands of times. If every time you feel a hint of boredom, waiting in line, waiting for a website to load, a lull in conversation, you immediately whip out your phone, you have rewired your brain. You are teaching your brain that it never has to tolerate a lack of stimuli. A brain that cannot handle boredom is a brain that cannot do deep work. To fix this, you don't just need to practice focus, you need to practice weaning yourself off the addiction to novelty. The common advice is to take an internet Sabbath, taking a day off from technology. Newport says this is nice but ineffective. It's like a heavy eater starving themselves for 1 day a week and binge eating the rest. It doesn't fix the diet. Instead, Newport suggests you schedule your distraction. Don't schedule your focus. That's what everyone tries to do. Schedule your breaks. Here is the actionable step. Pick a time block. Say, for the next 45 minutes, I am not allowed to use the internet. Even if you are stuck on a problem, even if you need to look up a fact, you cannot go online until the 45 minutes are up. You have to sit with the boredom. You have to sit with the cognitive strain. By resisting the urge to check, you are doing mental calisthenics. You are strengthening the muscle that allows you to control your attention. Over time, you increase these blocks. This is how you reclaim your gray matter from the clutches of the algorithm. And once you have rebuilt your capacity for attention, you need to be ruthless about where you spend it. This brings us to the tools we use and the third rule of deep work, which is Quit social media. Now, before you panic, Newport isn't arguing that you must become a Luddite living in a cave. He is asking you to fundamentally change how you select your tools. Most people use what Newport calls the any benefit mindset. This mindset says, I should use Twitter because it helps me stay up to date with news, or I should use Facebook because it helps me remember my cousin's birthday. If there is any benefit at all, you justify using the tool. But this ignores the cost. It ignores the fact that these tools are engineered to fragment your attention and mine your data. Newport proposes a different approach, the craftsman approach to tool selection. A craftsman doesn't use a tool just because it has some benefit. He uses a tool only if its positive impact on his core goals substantially outweighs the negatives. If your goal is to be a world-class writer, does constantly checking TikTok substantially help that goal? Or does it fragment the very concentration required to write? If the answer is no, the tool goes. The actionable step here is the 30-day ban. Don't announce you are leaving, don't write a dramatic goodbye post, just stop using these services for 30 days. After the month is up, ask yourself 2 questions. Would the last 30 days have been notably better if I had been using this service? Did anyone care that I wasn't using it? If the answer is no to both, delete the account. You will likely find that the world kept spinning and your mind got significantly quieter. This silence creates space for the final rule: drain the shallows. Even if you quit social media and master your focus, you still have a boss, you still have email, you still have taxes to file. Shallow work is unavoidable, but it must be contained or it will expand to fill your entire day. Newport argues that we tend to overestimate the importance of shallow work. We think if we don't reply instantly, the business will collapse. It won't. To control this, you need to treat your time like a budget. The specific tactic Newport recommends is schedule every minute of your day. At the start of the day, open your notebook and block out every minute. This isn't about being a robot. Plans change. If a crisis happens at 10 a.m., you simply rewrite the schedule for the rest of the day. The point isn't to stick to the plan perfectly. The point is to be intentional. When you have to write down 30 minutes browsing Amazon, you realize how wasteful that is. It forces you to confront the reality of how you spend your time. To enforce this efficiency, Newport advocates for fixed schedule productivity. Set a firm end time for your workday, say 5:30 p.m. Work backward from there. If you know you must stop at 5:30, you become ruthless with your time. You stop saying yes to useless meetings. You stop chatting by the water cooler for 40 minutes. You strip away the fat because you have a deadline. This artificial scarcity forces you to prioritize deep work because you no longer have the luxury of working late to catch up on what you missed while you were distracted. By draining the shallows, you aren't just saving time, you are protecting your mental energy for the work that actually matters. But what happens when you combine all these elements? What does a life of deep work actually look like in the long run? It looks like a life of intention, quality, and, perhaps surprisingly, satisfaction. To push this concept to its limit, Newport introduces the advanced concept of the grand gesture. Sometimes willpower and daily rituals aren't enough for a massive project. You need to shock your system into focus. When J.K. Rowling was struggling to finish Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, the distractions of being a celebrity at home were too much. She didn't just lock her office door, she checked into a suite at the Balmoral Hotel in Edinburgh. It cost her a fortune, but that was the point. By making a radical change in environment and a significant financial investment, she signaled to her brain, "This work is important." You don't need a five-star hotel. It could be booking a cabin for a weekend, or simply driving to a library 3 towns over where nobody knows you. The radical shift breaks your normal loop and demands a higher level of performance. Now, for the day-to-day, Newport suggests adapting business strategies for your personal brain, specifically the 4 disciplines of execution, 4DX. First, focus on the wildly important. Don't try to go deep on everything. Pick the one ambitious goal that matters most: writing the book, coding the app, launching the business. Second, act on lead measures. Most people look at lag measures, like number of pages written. That's too late. The lead measure is the time spent in deep work. If you control the hours, the result takes care of itself. Third, keep a compelling scoreboard. Physically track your deep work hours. Put a tick mark on a calendar for every hour of deep focus. People play differently when they are keeping score. You will fight to get that tick mark. When you put all this together, the rituals, the boredom tolerance, the tool selection, and the execution, you enter what Newport calls the deep life. This is the ultimate argument of the book. It's not just about productivity. It's not just about getting a promotion or making more money, though those things will happen. It is about the quality of your existence. A life spent in the shallows, frantically replying to emails, scrolling through feeds, constantly reacting to other people's demands, is a life that feels fragmented and anxious. It lacks weight. But a life spent deep is different. When you immerse yourself in a difficult task, when you push your mind to its limits to create something of value, you enter a state of flow. Humans are at their happiest not when they are relaxing on a beach doing nothing, but when they are stretched to their limits in a voluntary effort to accomplish something difficult and worthwhile. We are standing at a fork in the road. One path is easy. It is filled with likes, notifications, and the comfort of constant connectivity. It requires nothing of you but your passive attention. The other path is hard. It requires silence. It requires isolation. It requires you to confront the limits of your own ability. But the first path leads to a life where you are a spectator. The second path leads to a life where you are a builder. As Cal Newport concludes, a deep life is a good life. So here is my challenge to you. Don't try to change your whole life today. Just give me 1 hour. Tomorrow morning, put your phone in another room, turn off the internet, close the door, and spend 60 minutes doing the hardest, most important work you have been avoiding. Just 1 hour. See how it feels, see how much you get done, and then ask yourself if you're ready to go deeper. If you found value in this deep dive, hit that subscribe button. We don't do shallow content here. We explore the ideas that build a better life. I'll see you in the next one. Now go get to work.